everyone, I'm Angela McLaughlin. I'm a just graduated ID fellow here at BMC.
Hi, I'm Pranay, and I'm also one of the recent graduates of the ID Fellowship program. And we thought that because there's so many questions that you have when you come into a program, and we get a lot of these when we are showing people around BMC, that we thought we could answer some questions for you.
This is a high yield question section.
Yes. So the first question, Angela, is Boston livable?
Boston. So I love living in Boston. This is the second time I've lived here. The first time was about 10 years ago. So I moved back for fellowship, and it's just a really fun city. It's it's expensive, you probably have heard, but people live in different areas. So I live like in the southern Dorchester area. That is a bit of a hike to get to BMC, but it's a way that I, with my two dogs, were able to get a backyard so that the dogs didn't drive me crazy. And I, like my two co-fellows, do own a car, but a lot of the fellows don't own a car. But there's ways to work around the cost and the car situation.
Yes. I think it depends where you live. I lived in Roxbury when I was a clinical fellow. I actually ended up moving to the South Shore now that I don't have to be in the hospital every single day. But yes, Roxbury, Dorchester, I think rents are very affordable. And then if you want to squeeze it a little bit more, but have increased walkability, South End is a wonderful place to stay. Brick-lined streets, great restaurants.
Right, close to the hospital.
Close to the hospital. And then some months you're at the VA, but you can take the bus there, basically, and it is accessible. And there are also shuttles from the Jamaica Plain VA to the West Roxbury VA, which makes it doable without cars if you don't have one. But overall, Boston's been a wonderful place to live. It's a very vibrant city. There's a lot going on. So on your day off, it's not, you don't have to go too far to do something fun.
So like to go out. There's a lot of food and drinks, even like right next to the hospital, but also in my area all around Boston. Pranay likes to go hiking, it seems.
I do. I go to, I actually frequently go to New Hampshire or Vermont for hiking, and it's just, and even locally, I think they're great sort of state parks, the Wampatuck State Park, the Blue Mountain trails and so on, which are just lovely, and I have two dogs, and it's just great to take them there.
Yeah, you're an outdoorsy kind of person, which I'm not.
All right, next question.
Okay.
What is the most interesting consult that you saw recently?
Okay, you start, because I started this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing I watched, so I'm actually attending now in our Boston Medical Center TB clinic, which is actually the largest TB clinic in the state, which means we see some really cool stuff. And the most interesting thing I saw recently was a prevertebral abscess, which people initially thought was due to staph, because that's what you often see in people who use drugs, inject drugs. And in this case, it was a TB abscess, and it was massive and was actually associated with some cervical discitis as well. So it was really Pott's disease with associated abscess. So fun, and she's doing great, and I'm really happy.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. What about you?
So I've seen a lot of interesting ones, so I'm just going to narrow it down to the most recent interesting one, which is a guy I'm following in clinic now who had originally come into the hospital with endocarditis, and it was culture negative, so they were treating him, like working up all the normal culture negative stuff and treating him for presumed bacterial, and then it came back Q fever. So when I saw him, he had just gotten the diagnosis of Q fever endocarditis. He has lived in the US for a long time, so maybe came from, when he moved from Northern Africa 30, 40 years ago, and so I got to learn how to treat Q fever. It's a bit of a wild story, and he just got his valve replacement. He's doing really well too, so that's cool.
I saw Q fever too a couple of years ago, and for somebody he was a software engineer by day, and by night he used to eradicate vermin, and it's just. And we have a fairly large catchment area, especially the VA. So he was coming from, I think he was coming from Vermont actually.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it happens in the US sometimes.
Yeah. Rare in the US. But we see it. And then what would you say are the strengths of the program?
Okay. So narrowing it down into, I came into BMC because I liked the two main elements of BMC that I loved is that there's a good global health focus that we'll get into a little bit more later, but we have a large immigrant and refugee and returning traveler population. So, and then we also, our research, there's a lot of global health related programs. So I thought that was great. And the other one is I'm very into social justice and advocacy. And so I wanted to work with a more marginalized patient population that I really felt like I could advocate for, which is ID in general, but really BMC too. And I know some people don't like the trope of mission driven, the terminology there, but BMC like super is. Like there's a leader in the hospital whose job is making sure that we're aligning with the mission. So BMC, like people are believers around here and we really advocate for patients and it's awesome.
Absolutely. You really feel like you're, I think most of us become doctors because we want to serve, and really I think every day that I'm here I feel like I'm being of service. It's I think when you're looking for any sort of training program, you're looking at three things. You're looking at sort of the curriculum, which of course we have a great infectious disease curriculum with a wonderful faculty who sort of have a wide range from neglected tropical diseases to TB to HIV resistance patterns and sort of to antibiotic stewardship. I thought the curriculum was just wonderful, and then I think the people are really important, and I think everybody I met in my interview day just sort of, I was like, I want to be kind of like you. In fact, my mentor who I met during my interview, she interviewed me. I interviewed with her and I immediately was like, I want to be a mini Natasha Hochberg. She's the program director now. There you are. And the third thing is the mission, and this is what Angela's getting to. It's like you want to be a part of a place, of a program, of a hospital where you feel like the mission really aligns with yours. And with BMC, I never felt like there was any daylight between our worldview. And so very, very grateful to be here. And so in the same vein, what would you say are the weaknesses of the program? I think we have the same weakness in mind.
Yeah, BMC, we're not a major transplant center. So we have many strong qualities, but outside of renal transplants and some certain types of bone marrow transplants, you don't see a ton of transplant patients here. So if you're somebody who is diehard immunosuppressed host, this might not align with your interests as much. You will learn it, but we're not a powerhouse for that.
Absolutely. Again, at the VA, you will see a couple of them.
True.
But definitely you won't be like a transplant ID doc, straight after training here. That said, and Angela got to do this, the MGH, 1 month you can spend there doing transplant ID, which it sounds like an amazing experience.
It was really cool, yeah.
I didn't get to do it because COVID hit.
But yeah, that was actually just a quick tangent, is that the fellows had said that we really feel like we're not getting enough work with the immunosuppressed host, and so that's why the partnership with MGH got set up, and so that we can go over there for a month and learn from the amazing attendings there.
All right, are your attendings mean?
Okay.
So mean. No.
Was that double horns?
Yes, that my attempt at double horns.
Yeah, so this goes into what Pranay said a couple of questions ago, that it's just a really collegial center. I went in, any job change is kind of nerve-wracking, and you jump into fellowship being like, okay, I guess I'm the expert in infectious disease on day one, huh? But but the attendings are just really supportive. So one of the fellows' jobs is setting up rounds, and you're texting everybody and organizing the whole big set of your team. But you can text your attendings about anything, you can call them about anything. If I had any questions, especially early on when I wasn't super independent yet, they're just very open to being willing, even late at night. It's never fun to get a call late at night, but everyone was just always nice about it and willing to work and help us learn. And we're like a first name basis kind of organization. Related to that is not just attendings, but I love my co-fellows, and we have great ID pharmacists. We have multiple
Yes.
ID pharmacists, which go to a program with an ID pharmacist. They're incredible. And they sit in the office with you, as does our incredible IDPA Dylan, and you're all in the best. You're all in the office together as a first year, so there's really a good community of learning and talking out issues, and people are just super nice and work together.
Totally, and I think obviously like an ID fellowship is it's intimidating because you realize that there's this just a different level of responsibility than you're used to as a resident, which itself is a very difficult job. But I remember coming in and my first weekend on call, and weekends tend to be busy at BMC. It's a busy hospital. And I was on with Dr. Barlam, who is the division chief now, and she was our program director. And obviously as a first year fresh fledgling fellow, you feel rather intimidated by that, and that was a busy weekend. We actually got, I think, 15 consults that weekend, and and I was not used to that volume, and I was really terrified of underperforming in front of such an illustrious physician. But and this is the moment I knew that I was going to make it in fellowship. She was just so kind to me and helped me get through the day without making me feel like an idiot. And I think that to me was just the moment that was like, okay, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be okay, and I'm going to get to the other side of this and actually learn a couple of things along the way.
White cloud for learning.
Yes, I'm a black cloud for everything. Now, what kind of things do you see on consults?
Okay. Do you want to start with that one?
Yes, it's not always like TB, prevertebral abscess, and Q fever. I think we are very, very strong with general ID. We've got a very productive orthopedic service here, so that is sort of bread and butter. Of course, a lot of persons with IV drug use utilize Boston Medical Center primarily, and so we end up seeing a ton of Staph aureus bacteremia.
We see a lot of Staph aureus.
Yeah, it just becomes routine for you, and you become very, very good at finding all the little spots where staph goes, including arthritides, including endocarditis, and vertebral epidural abscesses. We see these all the time, so we are rather good at this. But also, I think one of the things I always say is that because Angela and I are both into global health, and it feels like the world comes to you at BMC, because we also have a huge immigrant population that comes to us, and so we see all sorts of tropical infections. We've seen strongyloides and schistosoma and neurocysticercosis. So it is really exciting to be on consult, and every other week you're seeing these kind of things that you don't see unless you leave America. And so the classic story is, the person lands at Logan International Airport and comes straight to BMC. And I love those kind of consults because it could be anything. Yep. It's really fun.
And we see a lot of TB here too, so you're going to get usually a couple of TB or strong TB rule out cases a month here. We see a fair amount, unfortunately, of AIDS still. That it's always a great advocacy opportunity, because somebody with AIDS, they fell through the cracks somewhere, and that's a great way to get our incredible clinic case managers on board with it, and then try to get them into care potentially for the first time. And then in addition to just AIDS, also creates everything.
And it's actually something I had not really seen before BMC, because my typical experience with HIV patients tended to be in a very well-run HIV clinic where everybody was already virally suppressed. I hadn't seen that many people coming with primary AIDS before I worked here, and it was a sobering and great learning opportunity though. Now, when do fellows get involved in research?
This is for Nay's jurisdiction.
She's saying that because
he's a research wizard.
No. Honestly, you can get involved at any point. I actually, this is general advice. Wherever you go, I think this applies. I think in general, it's best to get involved as early as possible. I matched her on December 7th and December 8th. I was working with Natasha Hochberg, and I even traveled to India with her before I started here.
That is not a typical story. Don't be scared.
Yeah, you don't have to. This is not the expectation, but again, this is a general recommendation. Is the earlier you can start, the better it is for you. But the great thing at BMC is that we have 2 weeks off in first year, which are research weeks, and really it's a really great time to think about what you like, what you don't like, and by this time you've probably worked with a couple of the faculty, so you know what they're like, you know if there's somebody who you really want to be a mini version of, and those are generally great mentor opportunities for you. And so then you can set up meetings and sort of get an idea of what you're going to do. Second year is far less clinical than the first year, and this is the time to start like sort of like maybe taking, I know you took some courses, I did too, in like statistical computing, and then I started publishing papers a lot more in my second year, and then in the third year we have a wonderful T32 program here, which will fund your salary, and you know you have certain only 15% I think clinical responsibility when you are on BU chart. But the T32 is great. It gives you funding for so many things, including traveling and sort of publishing work, technically taking courses, and you can even get a master's degree at BU School of Public Health, or a program in clinical effectiveness training at Harvard, which is just great if you want to be a decision scientist, or if you just want to get a head start on your clinical epidemiological research, for example. So just wonderful opportunities, and I think our core strengths are HIV, substance use, hepatitis C, tuberculosis. We have a great department here, which is actually why I came, and we also have a great amount of other research going on, including antibiotic stewardship. What do you think? Anything else that I'm missing?
Cost effectiveness. We have like a whole cost effectiveness center that ties, like, it's the tie that binds with a lot of these.
Right.
I got a slower start than Pranay on research, so I basically hit the ground running my second year. I didn't really do a lot of research my first year, in part because the second year is the bulk of the time, and then COVID also hit 2/3 into my first year, so that monopolized our time a bit. But so just a lot more time, like you said, less clinical time, so you have more time to meet with your mentor regularly and develop projects. And then I just started the T32, the BU chart that he was talking about. My co-fellow Leah and I just started basically right now, and I'm excited to have the next year or two of really protected time.
It's really wonderful. It's very nurturing, T32, which gives you a ton of support and mentorship, and I think honestly for me it's touching sometimes, because like I know for a lot of people it might seem like a schlep, because we have biannual research oversight committee meetings where people you talk about what you've done so far, but I find it very touching that it's like, for me it's like 3 or 4 or 5 like top TB researchers who are sitting in a room and like thinking about my career and like what I can do better, and I just find that very very moving that they take the time to do that, and it helps you transition to junior faculty with the help of these sort of like just amazing people. So it is truly a wonderful place to sort of start a career as a clinical investigator. And so I think we answered this question here too. Can we get a master's degree? Yes, you can at BUSPH, or you can do a PCE at Harvard. And I think both of them are great. And this is a question for Angela. Do you hang out with your fellows? And if so, what do you do in Boston?
Okay, well, I am the residency cruise director. So everything's been a little bit strange because of COVID, but we really love to hang out with each other. And pre-COVID, we had gatherings, and now we started them once like the world calmed down a little bit more. So every so often we try to do like a roof deck party at one of my co-fellows' very sweet apartment buildings over downtown, and otherwise we are doing basically a weekly Taco Tuesday, and we just get together after work, and people stream in when they're available, and we just get tacos and margaritas, and it's just a fun way to hang out and not be at the hospital. It's fun to hang out with people at the hospital, but you're distracted. So I think it's just good to be around people who are fun to hang out with and who want to hang out with you, and to get the opportunity to know people outside of talking about antibiotic stewardship.
And it's not just the fellows who go with us, it's also our friends in pharmacy and so on who come by.
Team Pharmacy and Team Dylan come.
Yeah, and it depends who's organizing. When Ragini organizes, we always end up at the Esplanade by the River Charles, which is actually quite lovely. But it's always at the Esplanade. Anyhow, but I think those are the questions we had in mind, and we just want to say, wherever you go, we wish you the best of luck. But if you come here, we will be so excited to welcome you to the BU community.
Yep. Fellowship applications can be a stressful process, but it's better than other stages in your journey so far. People are nice. Make sure to ask the questions that you really want to know, because just like you want to come to a program, the program really wants to match people that are good for them. So don't be shy, and you can also our emails are firstname.lastname@bmc.org, so drop us a line.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.